Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to assemble a cake with fruit fillings. So here I have my 3 layers of cake straight from the fridge. Make sure your cakes are cold. And now I'm going to peel off the parchment paper and I'm going to keep the cakes firmly on the cake board. So first what we have to do is we have to build a dam around the cake. If you are planning to cover the cake with buttercream, then I would advise you to use the buttercream to build the dam. And now my favorite, strawberry compote. So I fill the center with strawberry compote. And you spread it evenly on the cake. I love the big chunks of the strawberries rather than having it chopped. We are done spreading the fruits evenly. Now let's take the cream cheese frosting and we will spread it evenly over the fruits. Make sure you seal the sides well with the cream cheese frosting. You don't have to give that perfect smooth top because you're going to lay it with another layer of cake. Now you smooth the top with a palette knife. But you can see, if you notice, there are some strawberry syrup oozing out from the cake. That's perfectly okay, but if you can avoid it, it's much better. Let's start layering it with another cake. And now using the scraper, let's smooth the cream cheese frosting so that we are sealing the sides of the cake so that the strawberry will not ooze out. So if you need more cream cheese frosting, you can still apply it. If you see, there are so many gaps over there. So I'm filling it with more cream cheese frosting. So I'm basically sealing it right now. And with the scraper, I'm smoothing it, plus I'm sealing it. So if you notice, the moment I put the next layer over the cream cheese frosting, for the weight of the top layer, the strawberry is trying to come out of the cake. So here's my second layer of strawberries, and then I go around with the cream cheese frosting. So it doesn't have to be perfect because anyway you're going to smooth the cream cheese frosting. So you repeat the same process by smoothing out the cream cheese frosting. So right now it looks a little messy, but trust me, it's going to look perfect at the end. So here I'm going to keep my third final layer of cake. So it's going to be even more heavier on the first layer of cream cheese frosting and the strawberry that we added. But don't worry, we have a tip for that. So now again I'm going to seal the sides with more frosting. And I would like to say, if you're going to cover the cake with buttercream or if you're going to cover it with fondant, then instead of using the cream cheese frosting, you can use the buttercream. So use the buttercream to seal the sides. So here what I'm doing is I'm scraping the excess and I'm pressing the excess to the cake. So this way it's getting sealed well. So this is a very important step when you're making a cake with fruit fillings. So you have to keep something heavy over the cake and put it in the fridge for 2 or 3 hours. And once you remove it from the fridge, you will see the strawberry compote, the syrup, has come out of the cake. On the sides you will see that. And you take a paper towel and clean it off. I clean around the cake and now you will see some bulging of the cream cheese frosting that we used before. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scraper and I'm going to scrape off the excess while pressing the scraper onto the cake. So this I'm going to seal the cake again while removing the excess cream. If you leave it as it is, this is going to result in a bulge cake. So now here I'm going to cover the cake with buttercream frosting because I'm planning to cover this cake with fondant and decorate it with fondant details. Okay, now take a generous amount of buttercream and start smoothing it around the cake. So first you start with the top and then you go on the sides using a palette knife. Make sure you apply a generous amount of buttercream around the cake because this is going to act as a wall to prevent the cream cheese frosting or the strawberry syrup coming off the cake. Once the cake is done covering, you put it in the fridge for another hour and then you take it out. Your buttercream is hard enough to scrape with a knife. So I'm using a small knife to scrape the edges so that I will get a sharp edge on my buttercream. I'm going to put this cake in the fridge for another hour until I get my fondant ready. So I roll out the fondant, I put it over my cake, and here I'm using my hand to smooth the edges. If you notice, I'm flaring the sides and I'm smoothing it with my palm. So this will take quite some time, but have some patience. It will come out very neat and nice if you can spend more time on smoothing the sides. You see, you flare the fondant and then you smooth from the top to the bottom. So if you notice, my fondant is too long for my cake, so I'm going to trim it off with a scissor so that it's going to be easy for me to work with the fondant. And if I leave it as it is, then it might start to rip off from the top. So it's always best to get rid of the excess fondant and then start working on the cake. So you see there's a big fold, you flare it and you smooth it from the top to the bottom. So keep flaring it. It's like a skirt, you know how you flare a skirt. So you flare it and then smooth it off. And then comes the smoother. You start, now you actually you're starting to stick the fondant onto the cake. So use a smoother and you start smoothing it around. So first you smooth the top and then you go to the sides. I prefer using two smoothers to get a sharp edge on my cake. So if you see, the top smoother is bringing out the excess fondant and the bottom smoother is bringing the excess fondant to the top. So that will create a sharp edge on my cake. So you bring it, you see, you're making a sharp edge with the fondant. When the two fondant smoothers come closer, it should touch each other. So this is where it creates that sharp edge. Now you can use a pizza cutter or a knife to cut off the excess of the fondant. I prefer using the pizza cutter than the knife. Give it that final smoothing to make sure everything is sealed and clean. So if you're obsessed of a sharp edge, then you can keep smoothing it until you achieve the sharp edge that you're looking for. But make sure your cake is cold. So I think I'm happy with the outcome. I'm going to decorate this cake with more fondant details. I'm making this cake for my cousin's daughter for her second birthday. So, and if you notice, my cake is still cold. Make sure your cake is cold throughout the process. So here's the final product. I'm really happy with the outcome of it, and hope my tutorial was helpful for everyone. Thank you so much.